again, Breath of Fresh Bear. Actually thinking about changing the channel name to something else. I don't know. We'll see. Breath of Fresh Bear might still be what I stick with. But I'm looking to actually get into a little bit more stuff on self-sustainability and gardening. But that was kind of the Farmunity point anyways. And while Farmunity itself might not be a big thing right now, and it certainly could be in the future. We'll see what God does and how that works out. But one of the things I'm going to focus on is a little bit more self-sustainability. And what I'm doing currently right now here in my garage is getting ready to build some indoor grow areas for either plant starters or growing to full maturity right here in my garage throughout the cold winter, or, throughout the cold seasons, or even just to get a head start on planting for future months, and just to have constant food production going. And I can do that in my garage by building a pseudo greenhouse right in my garage that I can keep heated and cooled to exactly where I want to rather easily. So the heat not necessarily as big of a problem as keeping heat in as much as getting it to the temperature where plants will do well, because my garage isn't heated. But you can do a lot with a little in that, just even having grow bulbs and light sources and that type of thing, and producing a decent amount of heat. And if you have an area of your garage walled off with plastic, or using sandbags to keep the plastic on the floor, whatever, you can keep that heat in there and keep it at a temperature where your plants will grow. So I kind of want to show you this morning what I'm walking through and what I'm using to build this stuff, and kind of my idea behind it. Some of you may already be doing stuff like this, and I would definitely like tips or pointers or anything that you guys have for me as we kind of walk through this together. But this is kind of what I want to shift some of my channel to, because I really feel like food production is important. As some of you probably know, we're having some food issues right now here in the United States. And probably a lot of people are across the world, as the supply chains are breaking down because of the coronavirus. Whatever your thoughts are on the coronavirus is pretty irrelevant when it comes to food production and what you're eating. And myself personally, I would love to get to the point where all of the stuff I'm eating is coming from me. I'm investing in doing some things that we can talk about later, but just getting some sheep, starting with chicken production, which I'm not doing here, but I'm doing someplace close to here, because I can pick up animals for fairly cheap and have someone else raise them for me that I know very well, that has the space to do that. And then I just feed them money basically to help raise them, and I get the meat in return, and they get a portion of the meat as well. So really it's kind of a co-op type deal. But they're fairly close to me, as in like 2.5 hours from me, that they can grow that stuff. And just getting some sheep, some meat sheep, and some chickens could help supplement my diet greatly and make my food storage last a lot longer should it need to happen. And producing food is also part of that. So here I will go ahead and switch the camera view so you can kind of follow along with what I'm doing. So unfortunately I started this already and I didn't get to kind of show you what I'm doing. But these are 8 foot by 2 foot sections that I'm building, with putting some screening on the top. This is just some 1x material. That's going to be my bottom shelf. This is 1x2. You can pick it up fairly cheap. Usually it's 89 cents to $2, depending on whether you get premium wood or whether you just get furring strips. And I would recommend just getting furring strips, because this stuff is pretty cheap, and you don't have to build anything that looks fantastic. You're just trying to get the job done. What I have on top is just some screening that you can pick up from your garden center, whatever, local to you, or maybe you got some of the stuff laying around. You could also use chicken wire, or you could just take the furring strips and put them across the top as slats. But that's a little bit more expensive to do than just using the screening. The screening only cost me, I think it was like $5 or $6 for I think it was a 4 foot by 5 foot section of screening. So it's not overly expensive. It's about $1 per linear foot, I think, of this screening. So, but that side right there, I'm actually going to leave open for some larger things that I don't really want to transplant, like potatoes. I can start potatoes in there and then move them to a top shelf to grow out, and they'll have plenty of light, because this shelf right here, I really only want to have be about a foot up from the bottom, because I want that light on the seedlings to start the seedlings, so they get good light and everything underneath of it. And we're going to use some just 4-foot shop lights with some grow bulbs in them, and I'll be cutting this a little bit and adding in some things here as we go along to kind of show you the whole process as I'm doing it. But I really only want this bottom shelf to be about a foot up, and this next one here I want to be, or actually this one I'm going to have really close to the ground itself. It's actually probably only going to be about 3 inches off the ground, and that's just so I can slide a pan underneath of it to catch any water that would empty out through these grating, which is why I have the grating there, so that way the water can just run out the bottom and into a drip pan, and it'll be caught at the drip pan underneath the very bottom shelf. So this one I'm only going to have up about a foot to put the light on for this lower layer, and I'm going to be doing this in successive layers where I build these a little sturdier as I go further up the column, and you'll see what I'm talking about as we kind of go through the steps. But that way I can put and I probably should have left those last ones open over there, so I can put the grow systems in there to where I can put bigger, and I might just do that with that next shelf. I might go ahead and just completely screen off this bottom shelf here, and the next shelf here I'll put for a little bit bigger containers, about a foot up, and then the next lighting system I want to have about 24 inches up, so that way I can have successive grow outs, and then the next one will be pretty close to the ceiling, and then I can just have the lights about 3 foot up, so that all my flowering and fruit producing stuff that grows pretty tall will have room to have light. So I'll have 3 successive tiers of growing space here. They'll start the seedlings down here at the bottom, then the next section will be to where they get to be about, I'll move them off the seedlings once they are getting pretty close to the lights. And then the next section, I'll move them off when they hit, again, really close to the lights. And then the third section up there will actually be where they will continue their full grow out and where the fruit producing plants will go. So that's what I have in mind. And so now I'm going to go ahead and just take a quick break here, and I'll come back as soon as I have the structure put together so you guys can see what that looks like. So here you can see I've got the first stage of it all set up here, and I might still have some room here to do some slightly bigger things than I thought I would, and we'll see as I get it more into it. I don't really have a 5-gallon bucket sitting handy right now that I can use to demonstrate whether or not that'll fit underneath of there, but I don't think they would have enough room for light anyway. So for potatoes, really the 5-gallon bucket's going to be about the minimum you can get away with for doing that. And I might just have a different area, honestly, that I have for growing those out, so that way I don't ever really have to move them. I might just keep this for plants that are a little easier to manage that way. So here you can see I did 15 inches between the bottom shelf there and the second shelf. I did 15 inches between them, and I did 3 inches between the bottom shelf and the floor. And I might need to add some more reinforcement and everything here, because as you can see, those go all the way up, and I might need to put another one here in the center, depending on weight and what I end up doing with that. We'll have to see how that ends up working out, but I have a feeling I'm going to end up needing to put another support in the center and see how that goes. So we'll move along here. I'm getting ready to go ahead and put the light structure in here and show you guys what that looks like. So we'll go ahead and get the light structure in on that first shelf there and show you what that's going to look like. So now you can see that we have the lights in, and that they give off a pretty nice full spectrum light there. And if you get down there a little bit farther, you can kind of see what that looks like under there. So that's a nice full spectrum light bulb. It's a T8 fixture, and it is just a T8 grow light that gives us full spectrum of all the different light colors that the plants might want to grow and flower and bud and so on and so forth. But that is what I'm using for my grow lights. They're about 12 to 15 bucks a piece, and the fixture was about 8 bucks. I'm also going to try, because they're a little bit cheaper, a T12 grow bulb and see what the difference in that looks like. But they are back ordered currently, and I'm waiting on them to show up. So that is that, and I will be using a slightly different fixture with that, which you can see here. And this is just a smart light, a shop light or whatever. It's not anything fancy. I think this was 10 or 12 bucks as well. Takes 2 bulbs, but you can put T8s or T12s in this. So if the T12s don't work out, I didn't waste money on the fixture. I can always switch them back over to the T8s, but I kind of want to judge performance and see how they do side by side and see which one is more economical for me, because the T12 bulbs come in like a 6-pack for almost the same price as what the T8 grow light LED bulbs come in. So, and that's the difference, is one of them is a fluorescent tube and the other one is a just a regular shop light. So those are the differences between the two, because this one here, you can see they're for fluorescent bulbs. These ones are not. They are LED bulbs. So I could get T8 bulbs or T12 bulbs, but they have to be fluorescent for that light, which the shop light itself was a little bit more expensive, but the savings in bulbs makes up for it. So we'll see how that works out. But that's what I wanted to share with you guys for right now. And so you can see my grow setup, and I will do more on this exact series here in a little bit as I start to grow some plants in here and show you what I'm doing there. So again, keep seeking truth. You guys will find it, and I hope this is some help to you.